everybody, it is Professor Parish, and we are on Module 3 for English 109. So I'm recording this on Sunday, so if you've not done Module 2 yet, you still have the discussion forum to finish and the textbook activity that's due by tonight. So just a reminder that all of our assignments are due by Sunday night. There's no late work allowed, so make sure that you get those assignments done by Sunday. But let's look ahead at Module 3. So this week we got 2 assignments. Let's look at the guide first on here and look at our readings for this week. I want to go over chapters 3 and 4 with y'all that were assigned last week. And then the assignment for this week is to look at chapters 5 and 6 in our English Skills textbook. So looking at chapter 3, before we go any further, chapter 3 is really just talking about the first and second steps in writing, which is creating your point, first of all, and then organizing your evidence and creating your paragraph. So the main thing is, if you look on pages 62 in our textbook, it talks about the whole idea of a topic sentence, like how that is important. Like your paper and each of your paragraphs need to have a point. So when you create a paper, I know a lot of students, they struggle to stay focused in their writing, like going from point to point. And what works for me, and what our textbook does talk about, is that if you think of each paragraph of your paper as having a purpose. What is this paragraph going to do? Is this paragraph going to explain a process? Is it going to explain a term? Is it going to connect one paragraph to the next? What is the point? And I think that for me as a writer, that helps me to make sure that my paragraph has meaning. I'm like, okay, what's the point of this paragraph? Why am I writing it? What is it supposed to do? And that for me helps. I hate the 5-paragraph essay structure. I hate it because a lot of students are like, okay, I'm going to write 5 paragraphs, an intro, 3 body paragraphs, and conclusion. But that limits you in so many ways. What I think of it as, every time I start a new topic, I start a new paragraph. So as long as my paragraph's talking about the same thing, I can make that a pretty long paragraph. Now, you don't want to get it too long because then your paper starts to lose its flow, right? But the moment I start talking about something new, I need to transition to a new paragraph. Even if my one paragraph is 3 sentences and my next paragraph is 8 sentences, as long as they're talking about an individual point, that's all that matters. And our textbook kind of goes in chapter 3 along with this idea. So on page 64, they talk about specific evidence. You want to support your point with research, with your own opinion, with evidence that can back it up. And they talk about supporting sentences throughout that. And they talk about the umbrella idea on page 66, the idea that you have a topic and then underneath that you have all your support, like your topic kind of is the umbrella and your supporting evidence is what's underneath it. You can view it like that if you want a metaphor, but chapter 3 is pretty basic in terms of going over that and then specific details and being concise, giving specific examples, and the rest of the chapter just kind of talks about how to do that. So it's a pretty straightforward chapter. There's a lot of exercises in this chapter as I'm going through our textbook, but you can skim over those. I'm not asking you to read those. And then chapter 4 starts on page 99. If you can believe we're already 100 pages into this textbook, it's kind of crazy. But chapter 4 talks about how to organize that evidence. So chapter 3 talks about the importance of having a topic, having evidence to support that topic in each of your paragraphs. And then chapter 4, starting on page 100, talks about, okay, well, how do I organize that? How do I do that? And honestly, there's lots of different ways you can do that. On page 100, it talks about time order. So you can order it chronologically from like first to last, or you can do it in emphatic order, which is like the order of least important to most important. Some people do that, especially if your topic isn't something that really has a timeline to it. And then you can also kind of combine the two, like order it both chronologically and in order of importance. Maybe the most important thing in your paper you want to save for last to kind of keep your audience invested. Just kind of depends, right? And so chapter 4 also talks about transitions. And transitions on page 103, they give you like different ways that you can transition. Now, the big thing about this is a very important grammar rule. A lot of students forget this, and this is probably, I would argue, this is 80% of the grammar problems that you'll have in your assignments. If you start your sentence off with a transitional or an addition phrase or signal, then make sure you put a comma after it. So for example, I just did that. For example, if I start my sentence off with the phrase, for example, after the word example, I would need a comma because it's a additional phrase. It's not necessary for the sentence, but you're adding it on. So make sure that box on page 103, if you can see, like it says furthermore, similarly, likewise, moreover, if you start your sentence off with words like that, you need to put a comma after them and then do the rest of your sentence. It's just a basic grammar rule. Anytime you add on extra words or phrases that aren't needed, you need to signify that. And usually you do that with a comma. So that's just, you can kind of see there's some example assignments there that talk about that. And then on page 104, they have time signals, which kind of do the same thing. But again, if you start your sentence out with first, second, last, make sure you put that comma after it. And don't use the word lastly. If you'll notice in our book, it just says last. There's no lastly. Lastly, it's, if you want to get really grammatical with it, last is an adverb, which is something to describe a verb. So if you do something last, that's describing how you do it. So it's an adverb. If you add ly to it, you're just making an adverb another adverb. So I've noticed a lot of students write the phrase lastly, and I'm like, it's like a cringe. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I just want to like stop it. So instead of saying lastly, just say last. It's fine. You can say last, or if you want to really add an ly word, say finally. That works too. But if you put lastly, I'll probably call you out on it because it's one of those weird words. I'm like, no, why are we doing this, English language? Why have we decided that that's a word now? So I just had to go on my soapbox about that. But page 106 to 107 talks about transitions, and it gives you some example paragraphs that talk about different ways you can transition as well. And then there's connecting words on page 108 to 109. They talk about repeated words, pronouns, synonyms. We know synonyms are words that are similar. Antonyms are words that are opposite. So you can kind of check that out there. And then on page 111 through 113, they give some exercises talking about different orders in which you can arrange things. So chapters 3 and 4, they're long chapters, but like I told y'all last week in the Module 2 video, they're really mostly exercises, so you can get through these chapters fairly quickly. And I really encourage you, if you're somebody that struggles with organizing your writing, check chapters 3 and 4 out and look at the examples that they give, because I do think that they are helpful. And I do think that they'll help you kind of organize your writing if that's something you're struggling with. Now, having said that, the assignments for this Module 3 is to look at chapters 5 and 6, which are going to start about the 4th step in writing. So we'll talk about that next week in the Module 4 lecture video, but that is the assignment reading-wise for this week. So as far as your textbook assignments go, we have a discussion forum and then the grammar review. We are going to do some grammar reviews in this class. It's English 109. So I know a lot of students say that they want to make sure their grammar is all up to par before you get to 121. So that's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and we'll look at the grammar review first. So the grammar review is listed here. It's due January 30th, so it's due Sunday. And then if you look at it here, basically, and I'm going to double check this because this may not be correct since I have a different edition. Yeah, I'm going to have to change the pages on this, and I do apologize. I uploaded this from a previous semester, and it's from an older edition. So let me look on page, let me see how close we are. We're probably pretty close. Let me see, pages 419. Yeah, we're close, just not quite. So I will actually, the actual page it should be is going to be around pages 4, let me see here, activity 1 through 10 there. It's going to be on page 410. I'll send you all an email about the correction on this because there is a correction on the page number. All right. So I am going to send you all an email about that just to let you guys know that that has changed. But basically, all you're doing is identifying the subject and the verbs. It's pretty easy on that part. The subject and verbs for activity 1, pretty easy. Same with activity 2. And then I'll give you guys the actual correct pages for activity for the last part here where you're doing the sample, the complete sentences based on the details. I'll give you guys the corrections on those, okay? So I'll send you the corrected files for that, so don't worry about that grammar assignment. I'll send you the correct page numbers via email. Just make sure you check your email, and you should get that from me Sunday night before y'all start on there. So just so you know. And then finally, this is our discussion forum for this week. So For this discussion forum, it's talking about the idea of thesis and your points in your paper. So make sure that you watch this video before you answer the questions below. It's not a long video. It's just going to talk about thesis statements and the points of a video and why it's important to have those kind of organized. It kind of ties along with chapter 3 in our book. So the questions for the discussion forum: first, what is the overall thesis or main idea of this video? So I'm asking you as the student to identify, okay, what is the thesis of the video that y'all are watching? Second, what are the points of the video that the author states throughout? So you're going to kind of examine this video and break it down. Like if you're going to make an outline about this video and what it's about, you're going to tell me what is the thesis of the video, what are the main points, and then finally with number 3, do you agree with the author? Why or why not? Now, I put this in here because I consider this a safe space. Like we are all, even if you're in high school, this is a college course. So you all are all respectful to each other and what our opinions are. And our opinions are likely going to be different. So I think you can express your opinion in a professional and concise and kind way. You don't have to be like, oh, I agree with everything you say. If you don't agree, you can say, well, I think you make a good point, but here's my opinion. And you can express that in a kind and considerate manner. So judging by your first discussion forums, I think everybody will be respectful and kind and considerate, but I just want to put that in there because sometimes we will have discussion forums in this class that may have some charged opinions about them, and that's okay. But I think we all can constructively and politely agree to disagree if we don't agree with somebody, but just be sure you're respectful in your posts. That's all I ask. And I assume we're all adults here, so that shouldn't be too bad, right? So yeah, that is the assignments for this week. I will go back and change those pages. I do apologize. I'm going to look forward. I'm going to look ahead at future assignments and make sure those page numbers are accurate because I know that's frustrating if you open the assignment up and you're like, the page numbers aren't in my book like this. I know that's frustrating. So I'll go in there and check. The assignments for week 4 are now open too. So I'll check textbook activity 2 as well and make sure that those are all correct for next week as well. But make sure that if you've not turned in your assignments for week 2, that you do so tonight. And then I'll send you all an email about the corrected pages for grammar review number 1. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. This is a pretty short video this week because like I said, chapters 3 and 4 in our book, they're pretty much review. But if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm happy to help answer any questions that you have. Just let me know. All right. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you all again next week with Module 4 of English 109.